Welcome everybody here to Rejoice Mortgage. Today what we're going to do is go over a little bit of Calyx point training. Usually I do trainings every Saturday at 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and that's to accommodate everybody there on the West Coast. But I've just now recently decided to start recording these videos, and this will all help you out and show you the basics of Calyx point, or at least everything that I will need you to learn in order to complete a loan. So the first step when you get into Calyx point is to find your folder that's been assigned to you. Usually it's going to be your first initial, last name, and you would then log into your folder. There are other ways of looking for a borrower's file. You would just come here to Advanced Search, select all, and then type in the last name of your borrower, which in this case is going to be Johnny Test. So we'll open up Johnny Test. But before I get started with finding out and pricing out a loan with Johnny Test, what I'd like to do is show you when you're getting ready to start a new loan, you'll come over here to New, and we've already set up pre-templates for you all. You can go into the master template, and if depending on what type of loan that you are doing, notice there's several different types of loans. We've got generally our fees and everything built into these master templates, if you will. So what I would like for you to do in this case, we'll just pick out that it's an FHA purchase loan. That's going to give you a blank screen, obviously, or a blank 1003. And so what we're going to do for now is we're going to close this one out and go back into Johnny Test, because that's the one that I've set up for this particular training. So I'm going to do, again, an advanced search, select all, type in the borrower's last name, hit search. I'm coming over here to Johnny Test. I kind of have set this loan up in several different ways. Again, what we're going to be showing you with this particular training video is an FHA primary purchase loan. Okay, we really at this point do not know what the interest rate is going to be, so I'm going to take that out, and I am going to show you in this video how to price out a loan as well through your Optimal Blue system. My whole goal here at Rejoice Mortgage is to kind of show you the entire process, and this will help you throughout getting your files into the system and out of the system as fast as possible. So once you've entered in this information and what you would need to do, supposedly that you do not have a credit report. So you're going to come up here to Services, Credit Reports, Request Credit. If you have your borrower's debit or Visa card, or we take American Express, you would fill out their information, or you could select pay with your credit card or whatever it may be. On the borrower's credit card, you'll fill out their information. And once you've filled it out, then you're going to hit Submit. Make sure you've selected out Credit Plus on the drop-down menu of different vendors that are available as far as for credit reports. You'll type in your username and password. You should have been assigned a username and password when you started with Rejoice. So at that point, you would select out OK, and then it will start to pull in the credit report for you. Once it pulls in your credit report, make sure to take out any liabilities that have been zeroed out or do not have balances. So what will happen is once you've pulled the credit scores will pre-populate. And of course, this would be blank, but we always go by off of the borrower's middle score. Between the borrower's low and the borrower's high is going to be the middle score, and that's what you would type here. Now, since we have a middle score, if you do not have a property or you do not have a contract, you would just put TBD there. Okay? So in this particular case scenario, let's say we did have a contract, and let's say the sales price is going to be $250,000, and for now you would just put in an estimated appraised value of $250,000. And as you know, for an FHA loan, you would use 3.5% down. And if you selected out the master template, your upfront mortgage insurance premium would automatically fill in here. And that's kind of how you'll also know that you're in a template, because we have already set up what the mortgage insurance premiums are going to be in the system. Okay? Now, if you do need to make adjustments to that, if you do not know what the adjustments are, we've kind of put everything on the website to be able to assist you with trying to find or help you get through a mortgage loan. So when we do start to price, you'll go to Optimal Blue for pricing. But let's say you did not know what the MIP calculations would be. That's right here on our website that'll pull up. So as you can tell, our loan to value is greater than 95%. So the factor is 0.85. And then, of course, 175 basis points is equivalent to the 1.75%, as you would see here. So once you've got this information entered, you're going to want to double check to make sure that your credentials are set up under page 4. So when you scroll down here, if your name is not here right now, let's say you're not showing up in our little bit of a drop-down list, okay, what you would do in this case scenario is you would come up here to Utilities and select out drop-down lists, and then you would select out Originator. And if you do not see your name in there, again, what you would do is you would click Add, and then of course you would just put in your name and your NMLS ID, and of course your email address, and then whatever states that you are currently licensed for. You must have a state license in order to work here at Rejoice Mortgage. So you would then select out currently Florida, and then of course your name would then appear here for the drop down. Hit OK, and then so now you would then come over here. My system's running a little bit slow. Come over here and then look for your name in the drop down list, and of course obviously if I would have put in your email, it would have shown up there. Suppose that you do not have your company credentials here. Some of our states will show Rejoice Mortgage. In this case scenario, let's say this is blank. Again, you're going to come up here to Utilities. Excuse me. You're going to come over here to Company Defaults and Company Information. Excuse me. So after that, you will fill in your company information here. In some states, we've already got it filled in for you. And then if this is checked, you're going to automatically uncheck this box. And then, of course, we'll list the states that we are licensed in. So Florida, California, etc. And then so the company information would automatically appear here. Excuse me. What's good about our Calyx Point system is it houses all of our documents too as well. We would come up here if we did not know, once we pulled in the borrower's credit report, we would select on our little folder, and then you would actually see the borrower's credit report show up here. You then can double click on it and find out what it would be. And then it'll show a preview of whatever documents are here. Now, if you selected out the preset template, you're going to come over here to Fees Worksheet, and if you've selected out the correct template, your fees would automatically show up here. You're going to want to make sure that you put in your information here. Let's say if it's a Rejoice Mortgage. And then anytime that you use a drop down, if you put lender, it'll show up Rejoice Mortgage. Depending on who you've selected out or who your processor is going to be, we do have an internal processor, and then of course we have some external processors, and they would put their information here. So in certain cases, we do have Proficient Processing. And their fees are generally between $7.95 and $8.95, depending on the complexity of the file. So again, if you've selected out the preset templates, your appraisal fee, and keep in mind, we know appraisals are not generally $685. You can adjust it, but your processor, for disclosure purposes, we want to just make sure that we disclose high. Because if we did not disclose high, that's an intolerable fee, and it would have to have a cure. So if you did not charge for it and your appraisal comes in at $850, well, that's coming out of your pocket. So essentially, we want to kind of disclose a little bit higher. And we're going to adjust that, of course, on the final CD once we actually do get the receipt from the appraiser. Now, suppose that your title insurance fees did not show up here. Now, I've used Johnny Case for a couple of different times, but we want to make sure that we want to know what our title fees are going to be. Now, we've set up a relationship with a company called Coast to Coast Title. They are licensed in about 45 states currently. So what you would do if you wanted to, let's say you don't have title or whatever it may be, you're going to come up here to Interfaces, Disclosure Fees, select out Disclosure Fees, then select out Lodestar, hit OK. Then you're going to want to launch the Lodestar. Once you've launched Lodestar, it's going to open up a little window like this. Please write this down if you have not written it down so far. It's just quotes at obsidianmortgage.com. And our password is just capital O, BIRD 22 explanation. That's O with a capital O, BIRD 22 with an explanation. Make sure to capitalize Obsidian _mortgage. So O and the M must be capitalized in order to utilize this system. So then hit login. Once it logs in, it's going to then open up Lodestar. And if you've entered in your information in the Calyx point, it'll automatically pull in that information right here. So the next step is you're going to want to verify, make sure these are all correct, whatever county that you're in Florida or whatever state that you're in. Excuse me. And then what you're going to do is you're going to select out Coast to Coast as the title agent. Now, in most cases, if it's a purchase loan, the seller will select out the title company. If you want to know which title company that the seller is selected out, it should be printed or posted on the purchase agreement if you have a copy of the purchase contract. Once you have a copy of the purchase contract, you then can contact that closing attorney's office, and you can then do a request for not only title, but you can also send in for a request for um, your preliminary disclosure. So you'll select calculate in this case scenario. It will automatically calculate everything for you, your taxes, everything other than obviously escrows. Just hit export to Calyx Point. Once you've exported it to Calyx Point, there's going to be another screen that's going to pop up here shortly. Some of you can choose to keep it. Most of you can choose to get rid of it at this point. So if you want to not see it again, of course, you just select out that button. I always like to just leave it here just because it's just kind of an indicator that everything's getting pushed to Calyx Point. This is also, and then you're just going to exit out of that. And then notice your quote will automatically be updated and it'll show up right here. Now when you go back to your fees worksheet, it's going to put everything from the title company in the proper locations. So all of your title fees would show up here. And so what you're going to need to account for also, if you haven't done so already, which we haven't priced out this loan yet, but typically I like to use 15 days of interest. Now obviously it's going to adjust no matter what once the processor or we get ready to close your loan. At that point it will show up right here, and then you'll of course it'll automatically show up. So let's go back really quick to the borrower's information screen. Now notice again, we've got our sales price already and we've got our credit. Now it comes time for us to price out the loan. So what you're going to do is you're going to come over here to Optimal Blue. Optimal Blue login. Now once you're on Optimal Blue login, you'll hit your client login. Now most of you will have been assigned a username from your branch manager. We generally use the same username for depending on which region that you are in, and we'll of course send you your password via email. So once you're logged into Optimal Blue, I'm going to open it up. You're going to come over here to New Search. Okay, once you've entered in your new search, you'll type in your loan amount, $241,250. Of course, the estimated sales price and value, whichever is less, which will be used. Notice if it was 3.5%, it would show 96.5 LTV. Depending on what type of loan that you're doing, obviously this is a purchase, so we're going to leave it as purchase. But if you were doing a different type of a loan, it would show up right here. And then if you were obviously doing cash out, you would put that amount here. Anything that is highlighted in red must have some sort of number or something in it. Okay, so if you don't know what your debt to income ratio is at this point, just use it at your discretion. Usually 43 should work sufficiently. Now, we know what our borrower's credit score was. Again, 698 was the qualifying credit score. 698 would go there. Depending on what type of a property that you have, obviously there's all kinds of selections. The number of stories, your state. Once you have your state, it will not let you move forward unless you select out a county. So in this case scenario, it's going to be an FHA 30-year fixed mortgage. If you wanted to price out multiple different scenarios, of course, you can select them all out at the same time. If you are doing a down payment assistance or DPA type of program, you could then select out the product type, and then you'll hit the all, which will show the bond programs that there are available out there. Now, in this particular video, I'm only showing you the basics of getting and pricing out a loan through Optimal Blue. However, we do know that it is going to change, and so at this point, you're just going to hit submit because we have all of our information in there. Now, what happens when we price it out with Optimal Blue is it's going to put right now who the best priced mortgage is out there right now. So for those of you that are brokers and are used to a compensation of, let's say, 150 basis points out of the 275 basis points that there are available. But so you want to kind of think of our channel as a little bit different because we have a non-delegated channel and a delegated channel. For those of you that do not know between non-delegated and delegated, well, non-delegated is that the investor will underwrite the file. In a delegated file, we generally would typically underwrite that file. So in this case scenario, PRMG, so we would be the underwriter for this particular type of loan. We must have, at least if we're going to be delegated here at Rejoice Mortgage, you must have at least a 640 or better in order to do delegated, and we typically don't, they're on a case-by-case basis at this point. So if it were delegated, and so typically if you were looking to make a lot of money on this particular file, as an example, these are a 15-day lock. We generally, on most of the majority of the times with our non-delegated channel, we want to select out this 30-day. At this point, let's say as an example, 4.375, as you know, is paying back 3.333%, or 103.33. 2.875 is a par rate. That means when it starts to pay back. What do I mean by pay back? Well, this is a service release premium based upon your loan amount. And so depending on how much money that you wanted to make on your borrower, let's say you decided to do 102.870. At 102.870, you would take your loan amount and you would multiply your loan amount, so 241,250, and you're going to multiply that by, let's say, 2.875%. This is your service release portion of your compensation. Notice on this type of loan, if you did not charge any origination points whatsoever, this would be your compensation. Now, here at Rejoice Mortgage, you must register this amount, or whatever your lock is that you're choosing to go with, in our system. What do I mean by our system? When you come back here to Rejoice, at the very bottom of Rejoice Mortgage is going to be Rate Lock Request. The password is in your training material. Please feel free to go through your training material. Here at the bottom, again, is Welcome Home LO, and there is a password that your branch manager would have provided to you. So once you have your borrower and you decide that you want to lock your borrower, let's say you'll select out 30 days, whatever interest rate that you're going to be charging your borrower, and you're going to put in who the investor was. And in this case, with this particular investor, it was PRMG. Okay? That doesn't mean that PRMG, you're going to see it on any of the documents. PRMG is actually going to close in Obsidian's name, or if it's Rejoice, it'll be Rejoice DBA Obsidian. And then, of course, you'll be putting in your optimal blue price. So 102.875 that was paying. And then, of course, you'll fill out the remaining portion of this information and hit Submit. Now, at that point, you will have a lock. It'll be sent to you within 24 hours. Okay, so again, that's how we lock our loans here at Rejoice. Now, let's go back to our scenario. If you were not brokering out the file, let's say you felt comfortable with making that kind of compensation, so then you would put down 3.875 right here, Now, of course, you're going to go back to your fee sheet, and we're going to go back down. We're going to scroll all the way down to days of interest. And of course, you'll hit the unlock button. And remember, we put in 15 days. Now, if it's a purchase, typically our borrower must prepay for 1 year of prepaid homeowners insurance policy. So you're going to put in 12 months. And then, of course, on a purchase deal, if they've provided you an estimate, you'll take their estimate and divide it by 12, and that's what would go here. Suppose that for this example, we're just going to use $50, so their yearly premium is going to be $600. Now you're also going to come down here to initial escrow at closing. Depending on what state that you're in or what month that we are in, you're only typically going to use about 3 months of escrow for your homeowner's insurance. Now, taxes, okay, or property taxes or yearly property taxes. If you do not know what the property taxes are, you can either estimate, or again, what I like to do is come back here to Zillow.com, and what I'll do is I'll put in an address. And once I've selected out my address, it's just going to put up a home, and you'll scroll on down just a little bit, and it's going to say price tax history right here. You'll select out tax history, and then it shows you what the property taxes are. That's kind of going to give you a little bit more of an accurate depiction without ordering title so far. And that's what would be used. So again, you would just take your calculator, 3412 divided by 12, if this was the property address. So 284 would then be your amount of property taxes. And then depending on what month that you are in, right now, where we're currently in January, we would collect for about 5 months of taxes. If you do not know, again, you can order out a preliminary CD from the title company that is pre-selected by your seller. Most of the majority, even though that sometimes surveys are not needed, we still disclose it anyway. You must have these 2 checkboxes checked. Now, this is going to give you, obviously, if there's any kind of seller concessions, you would put them here. And let's say in this case on the purchase contract, it showed $5,000 that the seller was paying towards their closing costs and prepaid items. If there is any kind of lender credit or seller credit or any other credits, or most of the time there's an earnest money deposit or cash deposit on the sales contract, you would put that amount here. This is going to give you a general estimate of costs, a fees worksheet per se. Now, you're going to go through here and make sure that you've got these boxes selected. If the borrower, once the borrower prepays for the appraisal fee, which they usually do because they're going to provide you with their credit card information, just make sure you select right here. Notice it puts these parentheses beside it, and that means the borrower is not being charged. Sorry. Battling a little bit of a cold, but however, $13,502 is the approximate amount. And so if you needed to print this for whatever reason and provide it to your borrower, you just hit print right here. What I like to do is select out Microsoft. Let me close this out. It's going to have the fees worksheet. You're able to give a fees worksheet ahead of time without providing the loan estimate at this point. Because right now, I mean, when we go to disclose the loan, you will actually have a loan estimate that's actually going to be sent to your borrower. And if you've locked your loan ahead of time, they would receive a locked loan estimate. So what I meant by Microsoft to PDF, let's say we go to hit print. This way you can email this to your borrower. Microsoft to print to PDF. Select OK. That's going to print, obviously, a PDF document. And, of course, you'll decide where you're going to put it. Desktop for now. Call it Fees Worksheet. Now, again, this you can go ahead if you feel comfortable with your borrower and you want to give them an estimated amount of money that they would have to bring to closing ahead of the loan estimate. You are certainly welcome to do so. Now, there's some additional nuances here in Calyx Point that I would like for you all to learn. One of which is this great button right here. It's a tracking button. You'll hit Track Status. Again, Track Status. That's going to bring you to a page like this. This page kind of gives an update over here on the right-hand column. Now, of course, you don't have to have the information bar open. I like to have it open because I like to see where I'm at all times. However, it's up to your discretion on whether or not you choose to see it or not. Once you've selected out where you are in the process, notice once I selected application, it's going to show up where you're at, okay, as far as once it's submitted to processing. What I'd like for you all to also get used to is it's going to be our notes section too as well. So what you're going to do, find it here. Goodness gracious, now I've lost it. This thing gets in the way. It says here, conversation log. Once you've entered in a conversation, so it's going to enter in who actually said the conversation. This is a good way of communicating with your processor. So you would say ordered title, if you ordered title, or whatever you have done in the loan. That's going to put a little note in here that your processor will be able to see in the communication log. It's very important that you, any updates, if you've updated any kind of conditions and you want your processor to see it, make sure you make notes. It's very, very important that we have notes to keep in good communication. In addition to this note system, please make sure you send an email to your processor on any type of change that you've made to your application. So once you've selected OK, what I like about this page is you're going to scroll down just a little bit here, and this is going to select out, you know, what third-party documents that need to be ordered or whatever is going to be required throughout this transaction. Obviously, we're going to need a preliminary title. We're going to need the appraisal, and as time progresses, this just keeps us updated on where we're at the time, if we received it or if we didn't. This next section is a great section because once you've entered in the borrower's email address, once you've put in the email address, you're going to come back here to track status, and we're going to go back to exactly where I was located. What this section does, it enables you, now obviously these are all checked. We know you're not going to need any of these documents or all of the documents. So such as if you didn't have a co-borrower, you're just going to unselect them. Okay, so what this does, when you hit send, okay, it's going to send an email. It's going to tell them what the email is for and hit send to retrieve. You can put a note to your borrower or whatever. This is for a communication with your borrower. And it's also going to then send them an email saying, hey, we need these bank statements, I need W-2s, I need everything. And it's going to give your borrower some direction on how to upload their documents via their email. Once they've uploaded their documents will show in their file folder. So if they've uploaded a W-2, it'll say uploaded over here in your file folder. You can even send them, re-request, or once you've received it, make sure you come back in here and select out collected. That way you know you have it. Now, we're also able to track our disclosure section. For some of you, you will be trained on how to disclose to your borrowers. Once you've disclosed to your borrowers, you can then track, their signatures when they've signed their documents, or this is how your processor would actually do it. Now, one of the last steps that I want to make sure that I go over with you all is if you are going to be brokering out your file, for those of you that are not familiar with a Fannie 3.2 file, you're going to come over here to File, Export to, Fannie 3.2. And then you're going to, of course, name your file and hit Save. It's going to tell you which file folder that you're in. And then that way you can upload your document directly to the investor. Another thing is we want to try to make sure that most of the majority of the work is done prior to submitting your loan to your processing staff. Now, your processing staff will, of course, their job is to be clerical, collect documents, and so forth. But keep in mind, it is extremely important that you have everything in here filled out. If you've missed anything, like the title, Johnny Test, just click on it, it shows up. But you must have a thoroughly completed mortgage loan application, depending on that you will have gone over with your borrower. Also, what I'm going to show you, for those of you that did set up a zip file, okay? So some of you will have selected a zip file. So you're going to come over here to Utilities, Webcaster Preferences, okay? So if you have a zip file or zip set up in your signature, you're going to enter in your information right here about your zip account. Make sure you do point auto file naming and make sure it goes into your borrower file folder. And you want the system to check every 15 minutes for your zip. For those of you that are not familiar with zip, it is an application that you do receive. It's like a web page or a landing page. And everybody here at Rejoice Mortgage needs to be set up with a zip web page. So hit OK. So again, hopefully we are ready to give you some direction on, now let's say, Mike, I've completed my file, or I've completed a file and I'm ready to get it submitted. So that means that you have your contract, your W-2s, your paycheck stubs, everything is applicable to this file, should be in your file folder. Your next step is to come back here to Rejoice Mortgage. And take it back home and get out of the rate lock section. When you are ready to submit your loan to processing, please select the processing page. Once you come in here into the processing page, you will fill out this information to the best of your ability. If you have not set up or sent your borrower the SmartPay link, we're going to need an authorization for their appraisal. Just select out this credit card authorization, and this is going to give you an authorization for us to be able to not only pull credit, order bank account statements, or whatever it may be, to order out the appraisal. It pays for everything. So again, that's going to be at the bottom of Rejoice. Make sure you register your file, and then that's it. What will happen next is you'll be contacted by a processor that's been assigned to your file, and he or she will go over your system and have any questions that may need to be answered or addressed at that point. But that's generally how you get started here at Rejoice Mortgage. Well, thank you all for watching this video, and have a blessed day.